Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good. Welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up and get ready for the day ahead and all that fun stuff. Hey, good morning. Good morning, SSFTG fam. Got plenty of stuff going on, that's for sure. But before we get into that, as per the usual, on the right side there, make sure to read through the morning prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Hey, Raphael, how's it going? Just a quick note for you all before we jump on in today. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, the stream does have between like a 5 and 30 second delay, which will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. And then also, I just want to take a second, like we do every day, to thank all of our new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, and everyone in between. Thank you all so much for the support. I'm super excited to have you all on board. Welcome to the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you have several different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education or career. The easiest way to start out is to join as a member on YouTube. It gets you in the chat room and a bit more behind the scenes and what's going on. Or if you want more info on what we do every day and how we do it with over 20 hours of video course material and a ton more, swing over to the main page at ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're one of the VIP vets over on the dedicated stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside of me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Let's take a look at some charts and take a look at some news and all that fun stuff. Before we do, though, don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you every morning on the Major 7. NASDAQ, S&P, Gold, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Still got a running shoes on. Haven't tripped yet. Don't jinx it. As far as the news calendar is concerned, we do have some news going on today with 8:30 bringing out the initial jobless claims. Forecast is 335,000. I mean, obviously, regardless of whatever the number came out as, that's going to move the market around. And then going on later into the day, we have 10 o'clock Fed Chair Powell testifying again. And lately, whenever Powell's been on the mic, the market goes a bit weird. It seems like it takes on the mentality of almost like a holiday market where it's just so thin, everybody stops trading. But when somebody finally does put their foot down, if it's a little too big, it jumps all over the place. It's a little bit awkward lately around Powell, so you might have to be a bit more careful than normal at 10. Something to consider, though. Let's dive in, though. Take a look at what all is going on. From the NASDAQ perspective, the market has all but stopped going down. That said, it hasn't gone up. We've got some stalling. That's really about all that's happening here. In the microcycle phase, we have a wave 1, wave 2, into a strong wave 3 breakdown. Wave 4 was very gross, and that's fine because wave 2 fits. That follows right along with it into a completionary wave 5. Now that wave 5 is done, even if we are looking at the cycling to the downside, which in this case, wave 2 came back to an L2, a 2 to a 2. There's a little inside L1 there while 3 was forming. But in reality, when wave 4 was being created, that was also an L1 pullback and a dive lower. So this is one thing to kind of keep an eye on. We're in this L1, and even within these inner cycles, we're maintaining this L1 structure. Even though the market's not going up, it definitely isn't, or going down, it definitely isn't going up. It's got some problems here if the bulls are trying to take over. Now, there is one nice thing. Settlement and the gap that it left behind is way back here, and that's always nice when they leave behind a big gap and they've kind of rallied up. That creates a little bit of excess bullishness on a retest on the inside. And you can kind of see a little bit of a head and shoulders going on there. Well, see, the chart looks like a freaking mess right now. There's so much stuff on here, but you know what I mean. We've got a nice little kind of inverted head and shoulders, possible reversal. But here's the thing, right? The trend is still down. And at best, if we do get a corrective phase, I would be looking for an L2. That's the only thing that really makes sense in this sequence. And if we go off of the top over here, that'll put that right over there. So we've got a little ways to go as far as the NASDAQ is concerned, up to like the 14,940s, 50s. The 950s is not really a stranger to that level. Oh boy. We'll see. As far as the order flow is concerned, we did have that inside high with the initial drive down. The first pulse down, oh, never mind, I can't do it because my data's bugged. Really? Even into the next day, it's still bugged, huh? Wow. Okay. NinjaTrader's slipping here. Wow, okay. Well, either way, they haven't shifted the POC to the downside, so it hasn't confirmed anything. But we do have this major kind of trial point at 15,190. The market has to go up and test themselves, right? Are they going to be strong enough to actually break through after having to lift way the heck up there in the first place? That's asking a lot. That's not easy. So, I mean, there is a chance, and looking for the continuation break, we may have a breakout pullback type scenario that gets it going in the other direction. But for now, the bears are still in control. No POC shift either. Maybe if you go further forward. Okay, so if you go all the way to the end, inclusive of current price action, they have shifted the POC to the downside. That's the only way to get that done, though. On the S&P, we still have a higher low. I mean, really, the S&P looks like a flag. And I still stand by the original analysis that we were talking about a couple days ago, in that this looks very much like a wave 1 that has a gross, disgusting wave 2 inside of it, but finally decided to end up there. And we know that was a POC flip. I'll draw it on there in a second. But that gives us wave 3 to the downside, and with such a gross wave 2, you would expect to see wave 4 be very quick. But remember, it doesn't have to be. That's not the necessity. So we're kind of fitting, and it's a 50% pullback back to the downside would create a nice little maybe 618 blow-off down to the lows. And look where that would put price. Right back to that swing. And I'll tell you, where a lot of swing longs are going to want to get in, right there. And we come back down there, they're able to buy in with extremely minimized risk. Their risk would be down below the lows, but the reward would be, at minimum, just to the inside swing would be 2 to 1. Then above that would be another, I mean, what, another 3? So we're, what is this thing at, like 5, 6 to 1? I mean, swings are definitely going to be paying attention if it does pulse to a new low. We're not there yet, but... Over on gold, wow, what a bounce. We found the settlement to the downside. We missed the entry of area, well, the area of interest was just a little bit further up for that short yesterday. Totally missed it by just a handful of ticks and then rolled all the way back to the downside. Not really. I mean, we were looking a little bit further up, I guess, but big dive to the downside. They completed the objective of settlement testing. Double bounce now with a higher low. If you zoom in, that is technically a higher low. So, I mean, you know, is this enough to reverse this overall trend? Probably not, right? But in the short term, you know, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 disgusting 5, and now we've got more info. Remember, that was not a pure impulse wave, so that tells us that this is a corrective wave. That could easily just go into another sideways transitional phase. That's just a complex correction. That's all it is. So, I mean, realistically here, this hasn't been trending for a little while from a structure perspective. That said, it's still going down, but with these big rallies up, it would make more sense that a lot of stops are going to get contested. And that means that swing traders, Goldman, JP, etc., they're waiting and they're hanging out. They're going to be looking for those shorts around those stop areas, looking for the next stop as their stop for a continuation back down. Doesn't have to necessarily break a new low, but that would be the point of interest. Be interesting if we could get volume to validate that as well, if it actually works. That's bugged volume, though. Hang on. There we go. Oh, man. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, so 1752.5. That's the one. That's the hot spot right there. Right above those swings, right above that area of interest, everything falling in line. Nice zone. On crude oil, finally pulling back a little bit further and getting a relatively aggressive third lower high here. These types of moves potentially spark significantly larger falls, especially when we start breaking underneath the low. And we're talking like falls down to like the 71s. You know, mid 71s at least, back down to those inside swings. That'd be 71.50. And it would line up pretty well. Everything lines up pretty nicely with that. If we were looking at it from a measured move perspective, drawing that down would put us into the kind of mid 72s at the next inside swing. So at the very least, everything is saying that this should continue down in the near term. And that isn't expected to stop anytime soon yet, at least. And with this third lower high, especially with this trap right here, this could get nasty. Right? I mean, if the bulls are trying to buy into this low, they're already getting steamrolled. And the downside momentum, like, it might feel like it's selling really low right now, but you check back later today and it's down at 72, and that wasn't low anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this thing has some serious potential in terms of its overall movement. Now, where it is at the moment at around 73.70, we got about $1 down until we hit the measured move. For those of you who've been trading crude for a while, you know $1 down. They're a big fan of that. How's it going, laddie? Good morning, good morning. Over on the euro, apparently the EU is collapsing, and I missed the news. Jeez, oh Pete's, this thing is just falling apart. Realistically, we were talking about this for a while back. What did we have to go back to? The 4-hour chart? I think we had to go back. You can see I still have the days of data. We're going to have to go back even further now. 365? There we go. And let's go to a 1440 minute. We'll do a daily for a year and kind of see where this thing's at, because this thing is just way out in the stratosphere now. Yeah, we're at new lows. Okay. Well, let me swap this back a second here and duplicate that into a new window. Because as soon as I switch this to daily, it's going to screw my candles. Yep. And I didn't want to do that on my other chart. So we'll swap this to a daily and see where we're at on the much grander perspective. I feel like loading a daily shouldn't take this long. There we go. Okay. Global drawing objects, pop those off. Holy moly. Yeah, so first off, nobody's probably able to even see what the heck I'm looking at, so let me make these like a dark gray or something so you can see. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you can see it. So, I mean, realistically, where we are now, the overall trend is still not doing great. Right? I mean, this thing's been falling for a minute, and every time it's had any type of corrective phase, it's generally been, well, a failure. And keep in mind, we're talking a daily chart, right? We're going back to 2010, 2009, okay? So if we're just starting at this arbitrary swing high, seeing where it is, that's an L5, and it continues down after the L5. Usually after an L5, you expect to see an L2, and they got an L1. After the L1, you still expect to see that L2 come into play, and sure enough, they came back and they got it. And once they got it, they did not mess around. That thing was gone. So, well, job done, right? Just screaming away, and that started that perpetual bear trend for the majority of 2018, 2019, 2020, that really strong drive down that it's been inside of. Now that we have a completion of that, the next question is, where's the next pullback? Right now, looks like they're holding another L1. And from this perspective, we have a massive head and shoulders that's also gearing up with a break of the neckline. So, I mean, we're not talking small structures here. Right? This is a daily on the euro. This thing has seriously opened up the door for a monster dive. There's potential for this thing to fall apart down to the 1.1s. So, I mean, holy crap. This thing's crazy. This is going to be nuts. One thing I am very curious of, and this is going to take probably a minute, so let's not do it on tick. And even with minute, that's probably going to take a minute. So I'm going to put that off to the side. But, I mean, basically what we're talking about, wow, that was faster than I thought, on the euro is that this is some serious, potentially bad scenario here. And look at what the market's rejecting off of. I mean, this is a perfect storm. The euro's about to get sent into the mixer. Yeehaw. Buckle up. Here we go. This thing could get really interesting real fast. Well, anyway, we'll see. But, man, the euro is looking gnarly right now. Over on the crypto side of things, a lot of traders could be looking for shelter markets on the euro and the euro collapse, apparently. And that looks like it might be Bitcoin in the crypto side of things. I mean, look at the amount of support that's coming in here. I still want to see Bitcoin drop to 20,000. I really do. But if the fundamental and socioeconomic situation changes where you've got government shifting cash like that, that changes things, you know? That's different. I don't know. It seems like Bitcoin's trying to put in a base. We have not broken a new high. I have zero reason to believe the bulls at this point in time. That said, in the short term, they are trying to break with a higher low, a continuation into a short-term higher high. That's been done. That's been said before, right? We've got to break structural highs, and that doesn't happen until 49,000. Okay? So this thing has a huge amount of time before anything of interest happens. And in fact, what might be more beneficial for Bitcoin would be to see another cycle down to a new low, just to bring a confirmed swing lower to make a reversal easier, right? Then they'd have to break above 45,000. It's a bit easier to do then. $4,000 difference makes all the difference sometimes, I suppose. And then on Ethereum, same thing. We're putting in a nice base, but we have not had the confirmed swing transition. The last time we had a confirmed swing, it was a trap, rotated, attempted to go down, and that means that none of them are valid until back here. So for Ethereum, that's 35.50. Or a new low. We'll see. Let's jump on over. Gold is a screaming rocket ship to the moon right now. See if they can get their rallying going or what it is that they want to do here. Get my clock over here. The Euro's just a downtrend. I don't even know when that's going to stop going down, so I guess I'll stop looking at the Euro for a minute. Gold is catching a very strong pulse to the upside. As far as the momentum is concerned on gold, whoops, get it on the right market here. From the bottom all the way up to the top so far, we've got a monstrously top-weighted POC. Yikes. When did that happen? Okay, it didn't happen until after the pullback. But man, they started it beforehand. Holy crap, look at that pulse and volume. Sheesh. They weren't shy about those, huh? Probably limit orders. Probably targets. Whose targets? Probably their targets. Right. Let's see where about that falls. Remember, this is just an average, but if we were to throw a 2-to-1 on there, interesting. A little above, but maybe like 2 1/4, little icing on the cake. Big move. Next objective is going to be 3-to-1, which, if I saw correctly, wasn't too far away. Yeah, it's almost hit. Bulls are on a monster drive to the upside. Ooh, soybeans. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like crude. There we go. Market just kind of bouncing back and forth. We do have a new high, and that new high means that the POC is now above this. So 1738 is the POC. NASDAQ continuation sellers to the downside are just slapping this thing. We've got the first drive down inside the swing before it actually had the reversal, right? The reversal actually took place underneath the low. But before that actually happened, we can see that there is inside little structures there that had a nice little what is that, L4? To the tick L4? Rolled down with an L1, so it's following the rules. We've got an L2, blew off into an L1, into another L2. Now they're getting a little bit shaky down here. But realistically, from the grander structure, 10 minutes until the open, right around the corner here. Hey, Shoma, how's it going? Good morning, good morning. Kind of waiting to see what the market wants to do here. S&P's coming back to towards settlement. I mean, it's hovering right around that same spot. Yeah, how's it going, Satnam? Good morning. Oh, gotcha. Well, hopefully I said it right. Or at least it was close. Nah, it's all good. Sub-IED. I don't even know if that's the same, if it's the same geolocation. That's all I know. Gold still holding the low, bouncing aggressively, POCs at the top, but busting tops and still going, not stopping. I mean, realistically, as far as the 5-minute perspective on gold, it really doesn't do it justice. You do have to kind of zoom out to the 15 just to see where this thing's at. I mean, it doesn't really have any resistance until the 45s. There's just nothing standing in its way anymore. So far, the market's just kind of hanging out, not really doing a whole lot of anything. We're stalling out ahead of the open. Not too far away yet. Gold continues to climb. If we can get a little more upside momentum here on gold to keep this kind of churning above the top. This last pulse above the highs hasn't really proven anything. I'd like to see a bit more emphasis. S&P and the NASDAQ are both looking nice pullback. I mean, it's a great corrective phase, but the bigger perspective already shows us that we've had a 5-wave completion, and on the NASDAQ at least, so it's more likely to go sideways. The S&P, we still have room. And maybe in the wider perspective, we have some type of corrective phase that wants to go back up towards that L2. And that L2 on the NASDAQ lines up perfectly with the wave 4 top. Really nice. That's the zone that's much more interesting. So, we should be eyes out. Gold's just screaming. Wow. That's good, though. That's what we wanted. We wanted that new high. Now that we've got a bit more of a pulse on gold and it's breaking through the tops and adding a bit more emphasis, it is showing or suggesting that the bulls have plenty of continuation to keep this going. On the crude downswing, which I guess technically is sort of done, they've got a POC hovering at yikes, 70, basically 74, bottom weighted. All right, we got a little bit of a mixture going on here. There's POCs kind of everywhere. We've got the euro with a top-weighted POC up in the 16,150s. We've got gold with a really heavy top-weighted POC. Crude oil with a bottom third POC-ish. It's kinda. S&P top-weighted. NASDAQ bottom third. Bottom third? Yeah, crude would probably be bottom quarter. NASDAQ's bottom third. Let's split hairs about percentages. Who cares? I mean, they're all over the place. Nothing necessarily super consistent, even across the board from index to index. Very interesting. We'll see how this wants to progress, but gold's looking really good. Now that we've got that extra continuation for more continuation. $9.28. That's the next big time slot right around the corner. Man, if you're into the metal scene as far as music, totally off topic, but if you're into like heavy metal, and I'm talking like metal, not rock. I'm talking metal, like Vulvodynia metal, heavy stuff. This has been a phenomenal year for metal. It really has. There's been so many solid releases, but even for like the EDM scene has had some really interesting inclusions, like Bill Murray launching his most recent track, which I would qualify as like retro EDM-ish, kinda. Man, retro wave, there's a lot of really good albums coming out this year for all fronts. Like I said, totally off topic. I'm just incredibly passionate about music. I love music. Music is life. Outside of trading. You gotta unplug that vein to plug it in the other one, you know? How's it going, Ace? Good morning, good morning. Market just kind of hovering. The S&P, I still kind of like for the short, especially considering the POC is so top-weighted. Obviously, the bigger perspective, the S&P also has the room to go, right? Which is the nice part about it. They have the room to complete that fifth wave down. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, Ace. Same boat, totally. I would just like it to go maybe a touch further up. We've got 1 minute until the open, but like the 68, 69s, that'd be a nice area of interest. $67.75 if we can get a little bit of a pop at the open. Oh, no, for sure. I've been stalking a short for predominantly the majority of the morning, but the NASDAQ hasn't been setting up nicely. The S&P is the only one. I would like to try to build into like the 70s, but earliest would be the 68s, 67s, 75s in that area. We're going into the open. Hello? Did it open? What? Jeez. Market barely moved. Nice little zone of interest for the shorts to pressure back on. I like the first area to push down to like the 65, 75s or so, but realistically I think this has plenty of potential to drive down towards the 60s. The Nasdaq's catching a little bit of a continuation to the upside. Gold is... oh, never mind. S&P, big drop to the downside. Now, if it does want to continue lower and really break down, because again, we're looking for that larger move, it does have potential to keep on going. Nice little break through the scalpers area. They got to stay underneath it. Oh, I didn't mean to exit all of them there. Whoops. It jumped back and filled the one, and I didn't think I was going to get filled, so I hit the bid to close it, and then I was going to cancel the other one, and it jumped back and filled them all. Alright, well, I guess I closed the whole thing as a scalp. Good old open volatility. Jeez. Well, I guess in hindsight, it was a good thing I closed it as a scalp, but that was not intentional. Why are you shorting? I joined a bit late. Yeah, so the reason I like the short is, well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but if we jump back to the bigger picture, on the 15-minute chart, we're looking for a completionary 5-wave move to the downside. Now, it doesn't have to be to a new low, like below 4,300, but at least down to a new low below 4,330s or so, down below that previous one that happened on the 28th. And that lines up beautifully with the previous swing low down here for a trap. So what I'm looking for is for the bulls to essentially fall apart here. But you can see this is still early, right? I mean, the market's still going to the upside, so I've got to play it a little close to the chest. Once we start getting out underneath, then it's a little bit easier. The problem is it might fall too quickly. So I'm looking for a continuation on the bigger perspective. Yeah, for sure. Nasdaq jumped real fast to the upside. Holy cow. S&P followed right along with it. Nasdaq of interest in around like the 36s or so for longs to try to get a continuation pulse to the upside. But here's the thing. This kind of looks like this is also a desperation grab, right? Like a holy crap, I was long and I didn't want this to happen. Get me out of my trade, please, kind of situation. So there is a long, and it's possible. But I feel like it's going to be more beneficial to play it closer to the chest because of the risk here. The one benefit that the Nasdaq does have for longs is that its 5-wave completionary move is done. They finished it off already, so they don't have to go down to a new low. They can just kind of hang out here and do whatever. The S&P's got a bit more pressure on it. In turn, that might cause more pressure on the Nasdaq, but, you know. One problem at a time. So I do like the NASDAQ for a potential short-term long. It doesn't make me feel very comfortable, but comfort isn't, it doesn't matter what I feel. It's a trade setup, and I have to show up to the party. It has a good probability of a potential bounce back in the low 38s, 37s. Well, it got close and then went screaming away from it. I would like to see a bit of extra proof, though. I'm not going to be the first one to the party. Man, I'm freezing. Gold's still screaming higher. S&P had a nice little scalp short. Wasn't intentionally meaning to exit everything at a scalp, but, well, fat fingers away. Here we go. Did anyway. NASDAQ pulsing back to a continuation high. Didn't quite get the pullback that I wanted. I wanted the 38s, 37s. They made it down to 41. I'm already on the fence about it. I'm not going to aggressively make my way into the trade. It's got to come to me. I'm kind of curious. Where is the POC of this whole move? Oh, no. Oh, no. That's not good. This candle has to close above. And the next candle has to close above, too. This is a massive turning point here. What the crap? Hang on, my phone's trying to kill me. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Wasn't expecting my phone to just blow up on me like that. But this area, 14,860, this is a massive point that we've got to be concerned about. All right, this is a really... oh, no. Let's make this gold. Gold. That's the previous major POC. Yeah. That is the concern. Now, this is what I was talking about. From a short perspective, this is the possibility of earlier buyers who were trying to get the move going yesterday. Remember, we were trying to short into that move. But the bulls trying to get that move going and failing. And when they realized that they were wrong, they want to get out of break even. But they never did. They weren't able to. And they failed that opportunity. So when the market did come back and give them a chance to get out of break even, it looked like it was going to go. Oh, nope, crap, no. Oh my God, get me out of this thing. And it collapses all the way back down. This looks like a desperation grab if I've ever seen one. I don't really want to buy this pullback. I have to, mind you, because that's my trade plan. And this is the zone of interest. But I'm only going to do it with one contract, with an upside objective of a minimum of 3-to-1. And if this fails down, I'm not interested. So I'm taking this on a significantly more strict basis, because I don't like this area. But my job as a trader is to find my edge and take my edge. It didn't work this time. I wasn't expecting it to, but I still have to show up to the party. That's called discipline. It sucks sometimes. Probability trading. Ugh. Now, could there be different ways that I could approach that? Sure, I could try buying into it, building into it, and really get myself stuck. But I'm just not interested in that risk. I would rather just say, you know what? One contract, good enough. Now, if we can start diving back to the downside, my bias shifts drastically. But we do have that previous POC that the market's got to deal with, and I'm not interested in holding longs through that. S&P's back to low. Of course it is, yeah. After I accidentally scalped out of my position. Go figure, right? Gold, as far as upside momentum on gold, I really like this continuation leg to the upside, but realistically, this is a zone of interest that I feel like 35.9 or something a little bit lower is going to be more interesting. I like that area. I wouldn't mind seeing, though, if I can get one a little bit further down. Maybe even back into, like, the 34s. Yeah, it's not to say that the NASDAQ can't go back up. It certainly can. It's above the POC. It has every reason to be. And that's why, you know, when I know that I have an edge here, a pattern or a setup or whatever, I still have to take it, right? But I'm not going to take it full bore. I mean, why would I take that with 3 contracts when I know the overlying or underlying, however you want to look at it, has some problems? It stopped everybody out, right? Good old NASDAQ, and then went ripping all the way back up. So had I taken that with 3, I would have blown my entire day. That would have made that just totally suck. Right? It's just not worth it. But I'm still going to show up to the party. Just with 1. Now, gold, on the other hand, we've got a little bit of a better situation here. For gold to continue that bounce back to the upside, first objective can be relatively shallow, but the follow-through targets can be quite a bit better. 40, I mean, back to the highs, but realistically back up to like 40, 1748s, 50s, like back up into that area. Crude oil continuing to fall apart. New POC 73.68, kind of hovering back there. Market just kind of bouncing around, not really doing a whole lot. 9:45 around the corner. 10 o'clock news, which is next on the calendar. Well, it's not really news. It's Powell testifying, so 10 o'clock not hard as far as time. The euro is catching a really nice rally back up. NASDAQ and S&P just kind of holding out, not really doing a whole lot of anything. The euro has a zone of interest from the 6155s. But, I mean, this dive down in a total reversal up tells me that they're probably going to break above these highs and challenge somewhere back here more. I don't want to short into the euro. This looks more like it's a possible higher low long later on. At least in the short term. Obviously, the long term, it looks like the euro's just collapsing. But right now isn't the time of opportunity for much. Well, the S&P is just kind of jerking around a little bit, which is to be expected. The S&P already completed its objective down. But I will be looking for the NASDAQ to maybe follow through to the downside. NASDAQ getting its herky-jerkus on. See if we can break through a new low. All these wicks down here are definitely causing some issues, but if we can get through this, it'll start opening up. Why is it that every time I say we got to get through something, then it goes like one tick? Well, technically, good enough on the NASDAQ. Sellers will be trying to build up in the 35s or so. First pulse down for sellers to grab just a bit of scalping action on the NASDAQ back down. Secondary objectives, though, are going to be further towards like the low 20s. Sellers pressuring back, more scalping opportunities, but haven't gotten that breakaway move yet. Are you serious, gold? Like, that's the game that it wants to play, huh? Really, gold? 36.1. Oh, man. You spicy little thing. Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. Ay, ay, ay. Gold, you vindictive thing. Taking notes from the index markets. This whole wick area up at the top is a zone of potential resistance to push back on. I've already scalped out of a couple of the bounces back and forth, the little jostling. It looks like they're trying to pressure back up in to retest the 860s or so. Which would make sense. That's the POC. Hasn't quite made it yet. Oof. Okay. We got some heavy candles coming in on that. Back up into the 60s. Did they hit 60? Oh, they went 59.75. What kind of Walmart $9.99.99 special crap is that? Man. All right. And gold just a skosh. Can they get the test to 60 this time? They made it a tick away. There we go. Now actually testing into the 60s. Bulls closing back up. Now if they're going to close back above the 860s and pressure this up, 882.75 is the next zone. If that's the case, my average is in kind of a detrimental spot. So we'll have to play that a little bit differently now. Once we start breaking above the highs, if they pulse above the 80s, then I'll start to jostle a little bit back and forth. Nice thing is, though, the S&P would be the hedge market, which I really don't consider the S&P to be a hedge market. Man, gold. Oh, that's some salt in the wound. Alright, well, I missed gold. I didn't get the fill by a tick. C'est la vie. The last build and volume point was around the 849s, which isn't really a surprise. We saw them get stuck there for a while. So if they're going to double break above it, this is a roundabout doubling up. Just kind of back to those previous wick tops. I'm still looking for a potential longer-term failure for the short, but my average, I would like it to be a little bit further up now if I could. S&P, what was that, a double bottom? Yeah, to the tick double bottom at 57.75. Well, if they fall from here, they really didn't give me a chance to do much. I mean, the downside objectives would be towards like the 27 30s, 27s in that area. Roundabout. Oh man, gold. I'm gonna have to start front running myself. It's hard to see the downside objective from the 5-minute chart, but if you look at the 15-minute chart, this is the first initial area of interest with the POC shift back to the downside to at least retest back down to like the 35s, but potentially down towards the 60s and get a retest of the lows. Remember, we're in a sideways consolidated phase now. We've already completed the 5-wave move lower. It is likely that eventually they'll work their way up towards the L2, which is where it becomes much more interesting. But in the short term, we're still stuck inside this wedge. Got under a minute for this candle to close. Gold is back up to the top. Ugh. I'll accept the loss on the initial position on this pullback because, again, I'm trying to get my average in a more favorable point so we can get, you know, a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 move back to the lows to get it to fit. If the S&P can get just a bit more bullish continuation, we may have an opportunity for a potential hedge. But I really need to see it break through like the 74s, get above those highs as some proof, like show they can actually manage to do something here. Gold breaking up to almost a new high. It's still not quite there yet. We got 4 minutes until Powell is on the mic. Otherwise, here it sits. Gold never broke the high? Wow. It's got its vindictive pants on today. Well, I wasn't really able to do a whole lot with my average on that, but at the moment, I would still like to see if we can get a dive down to like the 36s or so initially, and then follow through for a larger move down, a much larger move down. The potential on this is quite big. Again, my average still isn't in a super favorable position, which is why I'm not doing much right now. I would really like to have my average up in the like the 65s or something, but if they are going to push down through like the 36s, 37s, then fine. I'll start exiting a couple at a scalper's target and then see if we can stretch them out for the 2s and 3s to 1. That makes sense, right? 2s and 3s to 1. I feel like that works. 2 minutes until Powell. Just because Powell's going to be on the mic soon, I'm going to preload these orders just so that they're there and ready in case the market just goes freaking crazy. Remember, news could cause it to go up as well. We got 1 minute until news. Understand your risks. Scalpers' objectives are off at that first point, but again, as far as like, that's basically break even from the earlier entries. Now we're effectively just holding this last one to see if we can get more continuation. I think realistically it makes sense to modify a bit further up to be safe on this next one with the news. But then after that, back down to settlement or around there is a logical point of interest. $10 o'clock hits. And nothing. Now, yeah. Now, remember, Powell on the microphone testifying and all of that is... It's just... there's kind of a delay, right? It takes him a minute to, like, walk up to the mic and say something kind of thing, so it's... All right, anyway, 10 o'clock. Feel free to get those last questions in on the YouTube side of things, and we'll roll over into the extended session, get things rocking and rolling from there. I can't believe gold missed me by a tick on that pullback. That just... Her. Let's see. Emini here, what kind of news do you look at for the ES 1221? So all of the news that I'm keeping an eye on, if you go to SSFTG and you go into the morning brief, there's an app for that. Hang on one second. There is actually an app for that. You can download it from your browser. But if you go into SSFTG and you go to the morning brief, all of the news that I keep an eye on, I post right here for you. If you are trying to figure out where to get that for yourself, which is totally fine as well, that's investing.com, their economic calendar. I just take a screenshot of it to save you guys the time, because this is the news that I'm going to be watching for the day. So the news that I'm referencing right now is this 10 o'clock Fed Chair Powell. Did I miss your answer on the ES seller's target to settlement? I must have missed the question. Hang on. That. Yes, close to settlement. The sellers don't want that target. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally just didn't even... It didn't even register in my brain. Yeah, I mean, that would be a logical area of interest. Just... remember, the S&P has already completed its major objective to the downside. You know, when we're looking at this, they already, well, you can't see it from the 50-minute chart, but or from the 5-minute chart. But from the 50-minute chart, we had that 5-wave completion to the downside, so it's expected to be a bit choppy or a bit kind of gross. So downside objectives of around settlement or maybe a little bit ahead of it makes sense, yeah. If it wants to go through, then, you know, hey, see how far they want to go, but... All right. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, and Stephen, if you want to, if you have more to that question, you can just ask in the extended session, so I don't mind rolling over. I am thinking about you, my guy. I got you. So let's roll over to the extended session real quick, and then we'll go from there. But if I miss any questions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com, or drop them in the comments below on the YouTube side, and I'll get them from there too. Either way, though, I hope you had a great day of trading, and we will see you all tomorrow morning. For the rest of you, if you're hanging out in the members side of things, give me 2 seconds, and we'll swap over, all right? Have a good one, and we'll talk to you all later. Thanks.